Erickson, Joe Orfano, Haibu, and Laura Dutton. I'm attending online. The Office of General Counsel is represented by Rebecca Levy, and Budget is represented by Lori Whitmer. Before we begin reviewing today's agenda, I'd like to ask Ricky Erickson to confirm whether there's anyone physically present for public comment.
No one in the room, Stephen. No one present for physical comment.
Thank you. Haley, did you receive any public comment via email?
No comments.
All right, let the record show we did not receive any public comment. I'll pause for a moment for callers joining us online to unmute and speak up. Hearing no comments, we'll proceed with today's regular agenda. On today's agenda, we have items 1 through 5 that have been reviewed by Procurement and Budget. These items are now ready to be reviewed by the Awards Committee, beginning with item 1, representing the minutes from April 1st, 2022 Awards Committee meeting. Are there any comments or corrections to be discussed? Okay, may I get a motion to approve award item 1, representing the minutes from April 1st, 2022 Awards Committee meeting?
Joe Orfano, so moved.
And a second? We have a motion from Joe Orfano, a second from Laura Dutton. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Minutes are approved as presented. I'll pass it over to Jenny McCollum, our Chief Procurement Officer, to walk us through each of the remaining items before I ask for a motion, beginning with item 2.
Thank you. Through the chair, award number 2 is a request for proposal. This was for our restoration of disturbed asphalt paved areas. This contractor will respond to approximately 2,000 work tickets a year. This includes the restoration of asphalt in city, county, and FDOT right-of-ways, roadways, and easements. The contractor will perform asphalt paving work, which includes filling holes, compaction, and asphalt setting throughout the JEA territory. Warren Asphalt Inc. is our recommended awardee in the amount of $20,460,825. This is a 5-year award with 2 optional 1-year renewals. We had 1 contractor submit, which is Warren Asphalt. They are our incumbent. And we did reach out to other prospective bidders, and really just the nature of the job, the contracts, there's lots of small repair jobs all over the JEA service territory. It just wasn't an attractive contract in the current market. So that was what we had heard back from some of the other vendors that didn't propose. And it just should be noted, historically, we only receive 1 proposal for these services just due to the nature of those small repairs. The award amount is slightly higher than the proposed amount due to the addition of budget that the facilities group requested for asphalt restoration services. At the time of the bid, the facilities group didn't have the forecasted items. So it was decided to add the budget amount for the facilities paving work at the time of award. I'll note that the contract amount is not guaranteed. It'll only be spent if projects require the asphalt paving repair. We'll use the proposed workbook to bill as task orders for each service. And lastly, the unit prices are on average about 27% higher than the previous contract amount. So we had a 5-year contract with Warren Asphalt. These contracts do allow for CPI increases, and they did request a CPI increase in 2021. So we used those prices to compare to our new prices. We're seeing a 27% on average, but I'll note that due to the expected quantities, the way the workbook is set up, if you look at the overall average, it's 27%, but the way that the work should be spread out, we're looking at more of like a 12.6% overall increase, just due to the nature of what we have coming for this contract. I'll let the business or Joe chime in if I misstated that last piece in any way.
Jenny, this is Joe. Just making sure everybody can hear me correctly.
Yes.
So we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So yes, Jenny, that was correct. If you look at the individual units, some increase more than others. But if you look at the units that are used the most, on those, and the way we use the contract, the 12.6% would be really what sort of the effective increase, the way we use the contract.
Okay, great. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Hey Jenny, this is Hyde. I do want to bring forward to the committee to consider the duration of the contract, realizing that the price increase is probably due to the current market conditions. And so I am concerned about the 5-year duration. Should we shorten it so that if market conditions settle down or become stable, that we can possibly see better prices?
I think we can rebid it after 3 years, right, Jenny?
Yeah, and we can do that, or if you still have the 1-year renewal option. And I understand there's a lot of work behind bidding and all that, and also understand the potential of even higher prices after 3 years exist. So I didn't want to change it before, but I do want everybody to kind of get your thoughts. If 5 years, considering that we're where we are, it's a little bit too long, or?
Well, I think the 5 years is just an option, right, Jenny? We don't have to actually renew it. We can go out to bid at any point. Is that correct? After each year?
We have a termination for convenience clause in all of our contracts. I would just caution the committee that historically we only have received one bid on this for as long as I can remember. It's due to the nature. So I think we're in a situation that we need to consider, when it comes to that. A longer term contract tied to CPI does, allow for us to control the increases, but due to lack of competition, I'm not sure, what you would see if you went to rebid in 3 years. So a longer contract might be in our best interest. One of the suggestions I had before we award is to have some conversations with our incumbent in this new, for this new contract, to see if we can negotiate a CPI contract cap, since we have seen those go up over the years. Now that will go down as well, but if we can certainly have some conversations with them to try to reduce some of that risk. But with one bid, we are in a situation we're in.
Yeah, no, I certainly understand if prices increase, then we can increase it with the CPI, but if prices decrease, I don't want us to be stuck with that's when we can actually rebid it and get lower prices.
So we would follow CPI up or down. So
Okay.
if the CPI goes down, we also can take advantage of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I might be more comfortable with average longer contract durations if we have things tied to specific
Indices.
indices that will give us that flexibility, and the language that is incorporated such that you get the benefit either.
Yeah.
If it does go down.
That's a great point, both Jenny and Laura, that I didn't realize that you can decrease according to the CPI too. Okay.
We need to make sure that's going to be explicit in the contract. Looking at the background information, it references an increase, but it doesn't mention anything about a decrease. So if we're anticipating we want to be able to do that, we need to make sure that's explicitly stated when we do the agreement.
Understood. I believe and Joe can confirm, the solicitation language, our CPI solicitation language is a pretty standard clause for us, up or down, but we can look back at that as well. And we can have those discussions before we execute the contract with the vendor post approval of the awards committee. Any
Hey, Jenny,
other
this is
questions or
Joe.
comments?
I think we will have to tweak the contract language a little bit. I think the way it reads right now, it says that the vendor may request an increase. And if it does, it's tied to CPI. So we would need to clarify that, you know, in the case of a lower CPI, that they also would have to adjust. So that's not currently
our request.
explicit. Right.
Okay.
So, Jenny, this is Dan Cook, the buyer for this one. I have the clause up and I'm reading it. There's a sentence that says JEA may review and impose a price adjustment based on the index identified if the company does not request a price adjustment. So it doesn't specify an increase or a decrease that JEA would be requesting, but I mean, I would interpret that as arms, but we can show ODC the clause and we can make a determination on that.
Thank you both. I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments from OGC or the committee? All right, I'll pass it back to the chair for a vote.
Thanks, Jenny. May I get a motion to approve award item 2?
Ricky, so moved.
And a second?
Haibu, second.
We have a motion from Ricky Erickson, a second from Hai Vu. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion is adopted. I'll pass it over to Jenny to present award item 3.
It was a hearty aye. I like that. Everyone
Yeah,
in the room together instead of split up in between the two. Through the chair, award number 3, this is an invitation for bid. This is for the design, fabrication, and shipping of Bartram Substation and Sauk Annex Towers. I think it's Saber. If I said that wrong, I apologize. Industries, Inc., in the amount of $479,422. This is a project completion. Looks like the way that the funds are set up, that it would be through this fiscal year or completed in this fiscal year. We received 2 bids. JEA reached out to the other potential bidders to see why we had lower competition on this one. And one bidder responded out of all of them that said he was unable to meet JEA's specification requirements due to his manufacturing size limitations. We didn't receive any other correspondence, but we moved forward in reviewing the bid with the 2 that had submitted. JEA has determined to only proceed with 1 tower at the Racetrack Road location after the bid for the 2 towers came in over budget. We talked to the business. There's no ramifications for not including the Sauk Annex right now, and the decision was based solely on funding. The just higher cost of materials, construction is where we are pointing from that increase over what we had originally budgeted. And so we talked to the company and they've agreed to maintain its pricing for the single tower build, despite the combination of the 2 being included in the solicitation. So I'll pause there and ask if you all have any questions or comments.
So we are accepting only one of the 2 projects and we're going to rebid the other one?
In FY23,
Okay.
when funding is available.
So the risk of even seeing even higher prices in 23 is real. So I guess I'm asking the business, why didn't we award both and just do the project in 22 and then you do the other project in 23 and schedule it versus accepting only one and rebidding in the future?
This is
This is Greg Rager. So to answer your question is the problem we had was, I mean, it's strictly around funding. So the cost of a 300-foot tower, it started off between, somewhere between 850 and 925,000. Over the last couple of years, it's escalated to 1.5. So we currently don't have the funding to do both this year. So in lieu of buying a tower and having both of them sit, we elected to go ahead and build the Bartram Tower in its entirety this year so that we can have that one off the books. And then we would build the Sauk Annex one next year.
I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead.
I mean, I couldn't totally promise that we could get Sauk Annex done this year anyway. It's currently at COJ being reviewed for fallback, setback provisions and whatnot. So we're still in the design permitting phase for that one. So the decision was just to go ahead and move forward with the Bartram, and we would, take on the Sauk Annex one next year.
I think I see Kai's rationale though. If there was a way to be able to, in the contract agreement, have the option in 23 with firm pricing for the materials, and that might be a way to achieve what you're trying to do without the funding being the problem. I mean, if we got to the place where we said we just never want to do it, it's likely that our contract could be structured in a way that gave us the flexibility to not move forward with the second tower.
I mean, is your question? Sorry.
Go ahead.
So is your question or your thought, can we go ahead and write a contract to Sabre for the two and only get one delivered this year and then the next in 23? I don't believe they will hold their prices for that long given the volatility of the steel market.
Materials. Okay.
And Lori Whitmore has a hand raised, Stephen.
Thank you. I was kind of unaware of the funding being an issue from a budget perspective in 22 on the electric system. I know this is coming out of the TS portfolio. The budget is tight. I know it has some big projects in it, but a larger portfolio perspective for total capital, we do have the funding if we're talking another $500,000 in 22. I was not aware of that, so I hope that as a reason alone not to do the other part in 22 is kind of concerning if it's a better price. I think we should.
Should we defer this one until we have the ability to go back and revisit what the funding looks like, if that's the case?
I think we need to ask the vendor from a timing perspective of when these projects would take place and the build of the tower, if they're willing to hold the pricing that they've submitted and what was communicated to them during the bidding period. I'm not sure if we had a timeline in there that they thought they were going to have to execute to. So we would need to look back at all of those things. I don't think making a decision today is likely if we want to look into it further, we should defer it, as Laura said.
Jenny, could we approve this and go back and look at the other one and award it at a future meeting if they hold the price? Is that not an option?
We could amend, yes, we could do a contract increase here.
That works too.
Yeah.
Either way, I think that works too.
So to Lori's point, funding is not an issue for the electric system.
Yeah, we should be able to do that, right?
Ricky took a considerable reduction based on supply chain issues. I don't have an issue with this.
Right. I don't want to hold it up though if we can prevent it, because the comm towers are important to all the radio communication, especially in St. Johns County, which is in the edge of
the city as well, obviously.
Yeah. Right. So I would prefer not to hold any of that up, but if we could just review that and possibly amend it later, I think would be my preferred if that's doable.
Seems reasonable.
It is. No, it's a great point. We can do that. If you guys are comfortable doing that, we can move forward that way.
that will give us time to review funding and constructability, because I heard a little bit of concern on permits from Greg, so that could be, another week to review that and then make a decision on it.
And Stephen Mitch Shepherd has his hand raised.
Yes.
Mitch, do you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to piggyback on what Lori said. From a funding standpoint, I'm looking at the bid for both towers is $958.5, and the project's current funds available is $968. So the funding is available.
I mean, it is, if that's all we wanted to do was buy towers and have them sit. I gotta, actually put foundations on and everything else. So that remaining 960, 400 would buy the tower, and then the remaining was going to allow me to actually build the site. So it would leave me with no funding to build anything, unless you guys are telling me that you're going to allow us to go find funding so I can continue.
Yeah,
I am saying the budget's available for you to trend an additional 500 if you need to.
and that's what I'm hearing too, Greg, is that if you submit a trend request, Ricky wouldn't have an issue.
Okay.
From that perspective.
No, I mean,
But
it
I
works
think
for
it's
us.
a great suggestion by Ricky. We move ahead with approval of this, and if it makes sense business-wise and funding-wise to add the other tower, then we can always come back and amend the contract.
Yeah, I just want to make a note that, I mean, the probability of us being able to build Sauk Annex this year is probably pretty small. So what we're hedging our bets on is that we're going to buy the second tower thinking that the prices are going to continue to go up when, the prices could go down in the steel market. So we're kind of just, again, hedging our bet, right?
I see it more as an option for you within the confines of this particular contract. If it doesn't make sense, I think there's a way that it's very easy that you don't have to move forward with doing it. And if that rationale is based on materials pricing has significantly decreased or whatever, there's no requirement for you to take the option in the contract. It's my thought, but if that's not the case, then
Yeah, that's how.
I think it just gives you
So
a
why
little
don't-
flexibility, Greg.
Why don't I suggest this for the committee to consider? Why don't we update some of the wording in this award document to reflect the conversation? It's pretty clear that we weren't going to do that one in this. So if we adjust some of that language to give ourselves the option to come back to the committee after discussions with the vendor on the second tower, the timing, all of those things, I think that would probably put us in the position that you guys are stating.
That'll work.
So we will take a stab before the chair. So if you guys approve this, with the updates, we'll take a stab at communicating that appropriately in the write-up before the chair signs off on it.
And the expectation is that we'll get feedback from OGC within the next week or two. Is that pretty realistic?
I think it's more based off of talking with the vendor. We need to work with them. We need to have some discussions and then. I can't answer that.
Yeah. Okay. Rebecca?
Yeah, I think that's realistic. As noted, really, the question here is more what is the vendor willing to do? But once we have some agreement with the vendor, the OGC part should be reasonably simple.
Just wanted to make sure that there weren't any issues regarding the permitting before we actually move forward with ordering the tower. So we need to make sure that that's locked up as well. That was my only point. For now, we move forward with the amendment to the contract to capture the discussion this morning.
Any other comments, questions? All right, I'll pass it back to the chair for a vote.
All right, may I get a motion to approve Award 3 with amendments?
Laura Dutton, so moved.
Joe Orfano, second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Laura Dutton, a second from Joe Orfano. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion is adopted. I'll pass it over to Jenny to present award item 4.
Thank you. Through the chair, award number 4 is a single source. This is for spun concrete poles in our circuit 917. So I need to make a note on this one real quick. So the number of poles that are existing are 8 poles. So we need to make that as just a slight edit in here. So the relocation of 8 existing poles, but we're putting in 9 poles because one of the poles is too large and it's 2 pieces, if you will. So it's really 9 structures. If I said that wrong, Rodney, correct me.
Yeah, this is Rodney real quick. So there's 9 new poles going in. The additional pole that's being installed is to facilitate the relocation. It's a different geometry that's going to be used for the relocation. So that's the reason for the extra pole. And the one pole is 2 pieces, but it's still only 9 poles total.
Thanks, Rodney. So I'll give you guys a little bit of background for this one. JEA has an agreement with Bartram Park Community Development District, so their CDD, to relocate the existing transmission poles in this circuit along Racetrack Road to accommodate a future road widening project between 90 and I-95. So that is the reason for the relocation. JEA is required to perform the relocation in 1 calendar year from the receipt of the CDD's notification and preliminary plans. And those plans were received at the beginning of 2022 in January. So we have until January 12th of 2023 to perform the relocation. This award that you would be approving is just for the poles, the ordering of the poles, receiving and delivering of those, which is expected to be in October 2022. Belmont Newmark Inc. is our recommended awardee in the amount of $326,983. Just some history. We used to have 2 different companies. We were able to bid these 2. Accord Industries discontinued their production of these poles back in 2011. When that happened, JEA made Belmont a standard. We standardized on it, and so it is a single source for JEA. A lot of it has to do with the size, the diameter, just the requirements that we have in using these poles. And I'll note that the concrete poles are more economical than the steel poles, but they do require additional space considerations. So there's a trade-off. And then the installation and the construction of the circuit will be bid out under a separate solicitation, which will need to happen, before the delivery. So we're ready to go when we need to get these installed before the deadline of January of 2023. The purchase price is fixed through delivery with payment upon delivery. When we look at the budget estimate versus what the bid was that we received, we see about a 12% increase The budget estimate was based off of the last time we did this in December of 2021. But I think part of that is due to poll number 30 was quoted at more than double the budget estimates. That's where we're seeing the majority of that increase. So I will pause and ask the committee for questions or comments.
This is high. I think the only comment is the begin date of the contract. Or it should be April or May versus September.
So this is just for the delivery of the poles, so the fabrication and delivery of the poles.
Right.
And we expect to get those. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The contract, they need 30 days for approval and 130 days for manufacturing. So my point is the contract should begin April, May, whenever it is signed for them to.
This, Rodney, you're right. You're right. That needs
Oh,
to
the
be.
begin date. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. I thought you said end date. End date. Okay. Yep. Okay, we will update that.
Yeah,
Rodney,
so.
what should that look like?
It'll be this month. We're going to be issuing the purchase order here shortly.
Okay. We will correct that. We've already negotiated the terms, so that purchase order can be done pretty quickly. We've worked with them in the past. We have a set of negotiated terms and conditions with them already. So if we set that, Rodney,
4:30.
give ourselves
4:30. Yep.
Okay.
And then
All right.
also, Rodney, can you add a statement just to clarify where the need for the extra pole in the write-up?
Yeah.
It was part of the transition.
Yes. The offline version is updated.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Are any other questions or comments? All right, I'll pass it back to the chair for a vote.
Thank you, Jenny. May I get a motion to approve award item 4?
Ricky, so moved.
Joe Arfano, second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Ricky Erickson, a second from Joe Arfano. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion's adopted. I'll pass it over to Jenny to present our final award item.
Stephen, it's Joe. Just to note, Laura Dutton had to leave the meeting.
Okay,
We
I
still
took
have-
note of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you through the chair. Award number 5 is the contract amendment. This is for Buckman Biosolids Conversion Projects. A little bit of history. Our Buckman Water Reclamation Facility treats an average of 30 million gallons per day of wastewater and processes waste, activated sludge, and primary sludge produced from 8 other JEA treatment plants. And this award was originally put together back in 2018 for professional design and engineering services for multiple projects at this location. Corollo Engineers, Inc. is our recommended awardee in the amount of $989,893.30. We've had, since 2018, quite a few either in decreases or increases. So back in April of 2020, we had a administrative decrease to reduce the scope and to change the contract to a lump sum format back. And then since then, we've had multiple increases for design changes requested by JEA, including the relocation of the new sludge thickening building and odor control, design of the new concrete building, redesign for compliance with updated resiliency plan, design of barrier concrete wall on the south side of the plant, and assistance in public outreach. We also asked them to perform inspection of the structural systems of the existing sludge disposal building, and then also a design of a new drum drying process. Lastly, we asked them, and the awards committee approved, they approved kind of the sequence, right? We've had quite a few, but we also have increased the study alternatives for the struvite control and nitrogen removal. So lots of moving pieces and parts. This building is old, and due to the age and the corrosive environment, the building is in relatively poor condition. So we're at the stage now for this contract amendment for the services during construction for the rehab of the processing facility. The construction portion of the work will be managed by Wharton Smith through our CMAR process. And I will pause there. Lots of stuff on this one from a history perspective, but ultimately what you guys would be approving today is the necessary design documents and the services during construction for rehabilitation of the processing facility. Any questions or comments?
Jenny, this is Ty. You did mention that the work is going to be done by the CMAR contractor, but we weren't too clear in that the contract with Corolla is the intent is through a CMAR approach for all the biosolids work out there. So probably won't be the last time we see a contract amendment for this engineering work, because we're still designing, and so just wanted to make sure that it's not a lot of change orders. It is through the CMAR process that we'll follow.
Thanks, Ty. Yeah, multiple projects. We did this mostly to try to have the oversight of one consultant, provide clear oversight, better alignment of the schedule, shortening the project timeline. So it does make sense to have this under that process. So I appreciate you clarifying that. If there's anything you want us to add specifically, we certainly can do that before the chair signs off on it. Any other comments or questions? All right, I'll pass it back to the chair for a vote.
Thank you, Jenny. May I get a motion to approve award item 5?
Joe Orfano, so moved.
And a second? We have a motion from Joe Orfano, a second from Hai Vu. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion is adopted. The entire agenda representing items 1 through 5 are approved for April 7th, 2022. Is there any other business to come before the awards committee at this time? All right, seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.